In this video, we're going to offer somebody some help and advice, someone who's going through the ringer about a recent drinking session where she couldn't remember what she did. And it's also for anyone who has to deal with or is trying to deal with an embarrassing moment, embarrassment or shame because of their own alcohol use. And the best approach is real talk in these kind of situations, and I'll give you some valuable advice towards the end. I'm Kevin O'Hara. I stopped drinking alcohol in 2013, and I am a full-time coach helping people to stop drinking over at habitsv2.com. Okay, the quotation now, the comment is, almost a week ago I was blacked out drunk and I behaved like a complete idiot. At least that's what I'm assuming. I remember the majority of the evening, but I think an hour in between is gone. So I hope wholeheartedly it wasn't as bad as I imagined that it was. Right, so you are what you decide to be in life in general. Right, so let's be real here. The best time to stop drinking is right after you get that first taste, or the first taste of alcohol, and you're just like, well, what the hell is that? I'm not drinking that again. Or the first time you vomit because you've drank too much, or the first thing that you said and or did that made you ashamed the next day. Right, you got up the next day and you thought to yourself, what the fuck did I say last night? That's the best time to stop drinking. Getting blackout drunk, losing your memory so badly that you've lost whole blocks of time that they're missing from your life, that's way down the road of when you should have called it a day. Right, and I'm not saying any of this to be nasty. I've been there. I've been in those situations. Most heavy drinkers have been there in those situations, and most heavy drinkers will say to you, once they've stopped drinking alcohol and they're looking back, you know, when you look back at your time as a drinker, once you haven't had it in your life for any length of time, you'll start to say to yourself, I wish I'd have done this sooner. I wish I'd have copped onto myself sooner, because of the life that you're living now, because of the freedom that you give to yourself, the strength, the clear mind, the better sleeps, waking up clear every morning, looking forward to the day, no more shame, loads of dignity in your life, loads of integrity in your life. Once you get to that stage, then you look back and you say to yourself, what was I thinking? So it is a point of view that I can only give you from 13 years myself of stopping drinking alcohol, but only knowing it from the perspective that I understand, because I did exactly the same things. Now, anytime and every time that you excuse your alcohol use by saying to yourself, that's just the way it is, it's just the way it is, you know, I've got to accept these times because, you know, they don't come that often, but when they do come, right, I'll block it out. Or you say to yourself, like you said, it wasn't as bad as I imagined, or I hope it wasn't as bad as I imagined. The hospitals are literally full of people who are there because of their drinking, right, in one way or another, either because of the physical consequences of the drinking or because they've done something while they were drinking, right? Same as with the prisons. And if you want to go down to the extreme, same as the graveyards, right, are full of people who are there because of their alcohol use. When you say to yourself, I behaved like a complete idiot, I know the feeling. I know the feeling. I remember it. There was some things in my life that I did while I was drunk, the things that I remember, or the aftermath of them. So I don't remember the fact, but I remember what happened afterwards the next day, being confronted by people, right? I know that feeling. And when you said that you behaved like a complete idiot, that's the best thing that you could say, right? That you're not an idiot, but you behave like one, right? Put the blame not on what you are, not on yourself, but on the things that you're doing, right? There's a big difference in that, because it means that you can start to figure out this stuff and say, well, am I going to do this in the future? See all of these things, see your future spreading out on a timeline, and every so often there is a blip like this, a shame, a guilt spreading down the road. Is that what you want in your life, right? You know, I used to think about this in terms of how I was showing myself up with other people. It was always the concern for me, right? When I got drunk with other people, you know, when you're drinking on your own and you do something and you say something, you remember it, it's kind of like a cringy moment where you kind of put it to the side and you go, I don't like that about myself, but I can accept it. But when you do it with other people, then you've got to deal with stuff. You've got to deal with a real life consequence afterwards. You've either got to apologize to somebody for something, or you've got to look at them and feel the shame of what you did or what you said. But the bigger concern is that we don't look at the drinking itself as idiotic. right? Thinking that we can gain anything by regularly, systematically pouring a poison into our bodies, right, without the consequences, or ignoring the consequences, or pretending the consequences are not because of all the alcohol that we've been shoving into. It's like going down to the doctor and saying, well, I've got this massive headache, but not telling him that you've been hitting your head against a wall for an hour every day, right? Think about what you're doing. Think about how many problems that you can solve in your life as it is right now by just cutting out the one thing, that one single thing. And, you know, it's a tough decision to take. I know that. It's a tough thing to face into. Who am I going to be? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? But I guarantee you that it's the wise one to make. I guarantee you, because you will get to 3 months or 6 months or a year, and you will look back at your decision and you will say that that is the wisest decision that you've ever made in your life, because of all the changes in your life. I'm not saying everything will be different after a year, but so much of it will have changed that it will change the way that you look at yourself now, and then that will change the way that you look at your past. So alcohol is the worst drug because it takes you down slowly. You know, while you think you're out there and you're having fun, you know, while you're young, your body is able to, much more capable of bouncing back from a lot of the poisoning that you're doing much quicker than it would when you start to get older, right? But you're still handing your life away. You're still giving your life away to this drug. You know, like I said, I've been there for 30 plus years that I drank. And it was only after I stopped, when I was going through that coping phase, I started saying to myself, whenever I was getting these feelings of sorry for myself, oh, you know, I wish I could have a drink now, or this would be a good time to have a pint, I'd say to myself something along the lines of, shut up, you know, you did this to yourself. Everything that you're going through now is because of the stuff that you did. Every drop of alcohol that was put in here was put in there by me. By the end of this, you know, like I said earlier, none of this is to blame or shame. I'm not trying to put any blame or shame on you, but I have to be real. You have to take on the blame and shame yourself. If you don't square up to it, if you don't square up to that truth, you're always going to be working from the point of view of a delusion, lies, your own lies that you're telling yourself. And just think about where that's going to take you. It's not going to take you anywhere good, right? So if you want to prosper in life, if you want to drive at something with purpose, something that you want, that you desire in your life, everyone's got these things that they want, that they can see outside of themselves in the future, that they can see as themselves, get into, goals that they want to achieve, things that they want to do in their life, feelings that they want to have that they might not be having now. If you want to get to those things, if you want to build that integrity and dignity in your life, blame is a good thing to take on to your own shoulders. Now, I'm not talking about blame in the sense of that this is something that you have to carry around with you for the rest of your life. We're living in an age now where you're not supposed to face into anything negative, right? How can you change if you don't make honest judgments? If you don't look at yourself and look at your behavior and look at the things that you're thinking and saying and doing and judge those things based on good or bad, are they going to take you? And I'm not talking about it from a moral point of view. I'm talking about it purely from the point of view of, are these things going to take you to the place that you want to go to or not? Simple as. If you don't take the responsibility, including all the blame, upon your own shoulders, who's going to do it for you? Who's going to take that responsibility and hold it for you and then go, oh, you're free to go forwards now? It doesn't work like that, right? So how can you move onwards and upwards in life if you don't take ownership of the mistakes that you've made, right? Also, I think there's a lot of stuff that focuses too much on our past. You know, it was part of my family. I drink because I had a rotten childhood. I drink because I grew up in a family with alcoholics in it. It was something that we did in our neighborhood. It was something we did in our city, in our country. It was part of our culture. Your past is an easy place to go if you want to find a willing stooge for your blame. Focusing on the symptoms rather than the problem. Right? Focusing on the problem rather than the solution. You know, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get past our past failures. It doesn't matter what we've done in the past. It doesn't matter that you behaved like a complete idiot in the past. It doesn't matter that you got blackout drunk in the past. All you can do is about the future. Think about the future. Think about, am I going to do this again? Am I going to repeat the same process, get the same results over and over again? And most drinkers don't truly think about their habits. Me included, until I stopped. I didn't sit down and think about exactly what I was doing. You think about it after, when you're going through the hangover. I'm never going to do that again. I feel so sick. I feel so ashamed of myself. I feel, why did I drink that much? Why did I do that? And that's the time when you really think about it. You think about the consequences. You think about the symptoms instead of the problem. You're just replaying the old patterns over and over again. You're living in the same old way of doing the same things over and over again, hoping for different results. And that just keeps all these results from repeating into the future. Like I said, one time after another, look at that timeline down into your future, 5 years, 10 years down the road, repeating the same thinking, the same behaviors, going to get you the same results. You are what you decide to be. So every sip of alcohol you take into your body is you deciding to take a shortcut, you deciding to say to yourself, well, it matters to me not now what's going to happen in 5 years' time. It only matters to me what's happening now in the moment, and me enjoying myself in the moment. It doesn't even matter to me what happens tomorrow, because now I'm enjoying myself, right? You say, I hope wholeheartedly it wasn't as bad as I imagined it was. But what if it was as bad? What if it was worse than you imagined it was? Because you're going to get to a stage where it is as bad as you thought it was, or worse. What do you do then? As long as you're looking at this with a view to shoving the alcohol down your throat, you're not going to see the truth, right? You're blinded to the truth. How can you ever see the truth? Because you're looking at it through a delusion, right? If you opened your eyes to the truth, if you opened your eyes to the real truth, that is, alcohol is a poison. Alcohol, every time you put a little bit of alcohol into your body, it's destroying your body bit by bit by bit, very slightly, but it is destroying your body. It's destroying your brain bit by bit, very slightly. If you keep putting the alcohol into your mouth and you keep living your life without looking at the truth, then you're going to keep repeating it. So my biggest regret is ever starting this stuff. There's a lot of good times in my life. There's a lot of times when I drank and I had a great blast, but I think I would have had maybe not as good of a blast, but I would have had a lot more times when there were good times. I would have had a lot more good times, because I know that now that I've stopped drinking, and I have many, many more good times. The problem with the drinking is, for every good time that you have, right, there's an opposite bad time. Maybe not the same day or the same time, but somewhere down the road there is an opposite bad time. For every time you're up here, you're going to be down here. But mostly, and this is the truth, if you really think about it, most of the time when you're drinking, it's just blah, mediocre, boring, going through the motions, right? 99% of anyone who stops drinking alcohol, for people who drink, 99% are going to stop eventually, right? You either wake up and you start to smell the roses, you start to see where you want to go, and you know that alcohol is not going to get you there, and you stop the poison on your own. Or something happens that fucks you up so bad in your own body or your own mind that you have to stop. And the choice is always yours. So all the emotions that you're feeling, the shame, the guilt, the terror of not knowing what you did, these are all calls to action. They're all things that are meant to fire off inside. They're not firing off just to make you feel bad. They're firing off to make you feel bad so that you'll do something about it. And that's the difference, right? This is the meaning of the term wake-up call. And if you're getting this over and over again, you're ignoring it, So don't ignore it. Don't hope that it will just go away on its own, because it won't. Don't hope that the next time you get drunk it'll be different, because it won't. It might be a little bit different the next time because you remember this, but then you soon get used to it, and then you'll be back to the same place again. It's like squeezing an orange and expecting apple juice to come out of it, right? It's not going to happen. Drunk is as drunk does. Put poison in and you're only going to get poison out. I wish you very well in this journey. I hope that you wake up and stop the poison. Keep the alcohol out of your mouth. Only then will you start the journey onwards and upwards. All right, take care of yourself.